Stuart Middleton back again with using the campus to facilitate crucible moments. And in this particular example, we actually use the campus to inspire our teaching. Rather than using the campus as a space for our teaching, we use it as a way of actually bringing into our teaching materials and our classroom practice an event which actually happened in the campus, and one which we hoped would engage the attention and interest of our students.
Hey everyone, Stuart Middleton here. I am walking up to what I reckon is historically one of the greatest places on the UQ campus. Probably never guess where I'm going. You can hear the jackhammers in the background. You'll probably go, where is he off to? Because, what could be so exciting? Well, I'm here to show you now, behind me, the UQ bike shop. There we go. There's the bike shop. There are all the bikes there. So what actually happened with this? 1988, this humble little bike shop that you probably walked past 100 times and never really thought about, it was the home of the 4ZZZ radio station. And it was historically a really important time in Queensland politics, of course, with the end of the Joh Bjelke-Petersen era and so on. And there was a national party group that was in charge of the student union. And 4ZZZ had been the voice of resistance against a lot of things that were happening in the Bjelke-Petersen era. And the union president, Victoria Brazil, actually kicked the radio station out of their premises in December 1988. This led to a situation where members of the radio station went up to Mount Cootha. They commandeered one of the towers up there in terms of the broadcasting towers, and encouraged students to march on the campus there. And then we had this huge congregation outside the bike shop behind me, and the students had taken over the radio station again by the end of that particular day. So really important moment in UQ history, a really important moment in politics in wider Queensland as well. And for me, the way that I've brought this into my teaching is I've used it as a source of inspiration. Particularly, I think I was concerned as to whether students were valuing their education or their tradition that they were coming into through going to UQ as much as they might otherwise. And so I thought that the 4ZZZ story was an interesting story, likely to provoke their attention and make them reflect a little bit more on what it means to be a graduate of the University of Queensland. And I will show you now how I actually did that.
All right, so I think the 4ZZZ story is a good one for a range of reasons. Look, in terms of where Queensland was at back in that 1988 period, it's a story which demonstrates UQ's commitment to democracy. I mean, UQ was quite often viewed as being the opposition, if you like, to a lot of the activities were happening in the state government at the time, given that it was hard for the other parties to form opposition. So UQ has a really important heritage in this area and tradition in this area, and I think it's good to be able to demonstrate that, to bring that to students, to the attention of students. It also demonstrates to UQ students the history of the commitment of the student body in standing up for their own rights. Remember, this was a period where students could face severe punishment, jail, etc., for actually standing up for themselves and for democracy as a whole. So I think it's a really good insight to give students about this particular example with the 4ZZZ station. It provides an engaging story for students to understand their heritage too. I mean, look, let's face it, it's an interesting story. It's a really great story about what actually happens when there's disagreement between, in this case, the student union and the student body. It challenges students to stand up for what they believe in, which is important if we're going to, have students who are going to contribute to a responsible society, I guess, a fair and equitable society. And it opens a chapter for integrating an engaging form of storytelling into your classroom. And I'm going to show you how I actually did that through my escape box. So an escape box is where students are presented with cryptic clues. They're expected to use the answers to those questions to open a padlocked box within a certain period of time. And here's basically how I integrated that escape box into my teaching. All right, so here's what I did. Created an escape box using the 4ZZZ experience, and I'll give you an overview of how it started.
Despite a day of peace talks, a question mark still hangs over the future of Queensland University radio station 4ZZZ. Yesterday there was a reprieve after the Students' Union tried to shut down the station, but there could be another move to close it next week.
Yesterday is a day 4ZZZ staff won't forget. A left-wing broadcaster, Triple Z has often outraged listeners and the Students' Union. The union tried to evict the station yesterday, claiming it hadn't paid the rent. Triple Z responded with a rebel broadcast from Mount Cootha before announcers and supporters stormed back into the campus studio. Today, representatives from both sides tried to settle the dispute.
And we're trying to get a situation where there's a win-win situation and there's no battle and there's no loss.
Triple Z has asked the union for a 6-month cooling-off period and for money to repair the station. The union says it's prepared to talk and more discussions are planned tomorrow. In the meantime, the only good news for 4ZZZ is an increased audience share of curious listeners.
We've survived.
It's 4:30 a.m. and you're on radio 4ZZZ playing REM's Orange Crush when the studio door bursts open and in come 5 burly police officers. They shut down your production, put you and your production team in handcuffs and throw you into the back of their paddy van. As your face hits the floor, you hear this clinking sound of metal and chains behind you as they've locked up the studio. Now you have to escape the paddy van, get back into the studio and get Radio 4ZZZ back on air. Can you do it in 45 minutes? All right. So yes, I used 45 minutes there, gave the students some cryptic clues to actually solve related to my course. I was very lucky though. I was helped by a young woman by the name of Shakira Moss, who was in the UQBS learning design team at the time. Shakira is a very talented member of staff around here. And I was able to use this experience to really help students study for their exam, to recap on some of the key concepts that we'd actually used in the course so far. So that's a different way of using the campus for actually inspiring you in terms of your teaching, to be able to integrate it into some of the course materials that you design. All right, so all I'd say to you is UQ has hundreds of stories. Look in A Place of Light and Learning as a start, the book that you've been using to help you with the clues for this particular scavenger hunt. UQ Library also has digital collections of audio interviews with UQ luminaries that you can find online through the eSpace resource. Fry Library has a wonderful collection of resources for all manner of things related to the university. So find a UQ story to tap into and integrate it in a way into your teaching. Look out for stories which are going to be interesting to your students. Look out for stories which are going to ask to help them understand the university of which they're a part, the student body of which they're a part, and to, I guess, raise questions about what it is that they might do in the future, or, you know, give them some sort of different insights to help them understand themselves, their way of being, and who they might become. I hope this has been helpful.